can see, we're having some technical difficulties today because Fiona has been sitting here the entire time I've been drawing and making it difficult for me to work in the studio. So I've been sick for the last several days, and she's been very concerned that I might not make it. She gets very worried when I'm ill, so she follows me around and sits on top of me and won't leave me alone and makes sure that I'm not about to die. And so she followed me out here today and has been in the studio with me and making sure that I'm okay. So she sat on my book the entire time I was trying to draw my sketchbook drawing to get ready to paint. So hopefully I'll be able to continue. We'll just have to see. Okay, so now we're just gonna see how far Kitty lets me get. I know that sounds ridiculous to people who aren't cat people, but she's always so concerned when I'm not well. So I just kind of let her hang out with me, and she's just a really nice cat, so she's my little pal. So since art is such a huge part of my life, there's not normally a day that goes by that I don't make something, but I've been kind of down with a very bad virus. I have some autoimmune diseases I don't really talk about too much on this channel, but it's just, if I get just a regular cold, sometimes it means that I'm going to be in bed for a few days. I really got knocked out when I get anything, so I'm really careful not to get sick most of the time, but if I do, I'm just down and out. So today's my first day back in the studio, so I just wanted something kind of very easy to do, so I just kind of did a quick little sketch in my sketchbook. And I guess I really wanted to talk about how sketchbooks can be soothing, and they don't always have to be, this pristine, every page is this perfect, gorgeous, finished painting that we see in these sketchbook flips. And I think that people get overwhelmed sometimes when they go on Instagram and Pinterest and YouTube, and people are doing these amazing sketchbook flips, and every page is a beautiful, finished, gorgeous painting. And what you have to remember is not every page in your sketchbook has to be that. It can just be a healing, fun experience where you're just experimenting or trying out something new, or there can be an ugly sketchbook page, and I have tons of those pages in some of my sketchbooks. And as a matter of fact, I have different sketchbooks for different things that I'm doing. And I have ones that are, some pages are maybe a grocery list, or like things I need to pick up at the store that I don't want to forget to grab when I'm out, or things I need to do, or a checklist of things I don't want to forget, or ideas for a video maybe that I want to do. And I'm a very busy teaching artist as well, so I have another studio outside of my home studio where I'm creating classes and class ideas, and so there may be sketches for ideas for classes for my adults or my children. And I also teach ceramics, so I have ideas for clay classes and things like that. So that all goes into sketchbooks. So I think that we forget that these are our own. These are a place to work out our ideas. And so today, what I'm doing is I'm just playing with this very simple, kind of nature based sketch. I'm not trying to make a finished painting here, but I'm trying to get back into my daily art practice. So I'm just kind of doing a fun gouache painting, and I'm using my Gouache gouache set, which I demoed this recently, but it's a very beautiful set. It's a very complete set of gouache paints, and mixing in quite a bit of the white to create some tints here, and just playing with the different colors, and just I'm not thinking at all about what I'm doing, and I'm not trying to create a finished painting. I'm just having fun and getting back into my daily practice, which I've been away from for several days now. So what I'm trying to say is that it's our place that we can explore and just take time and really experiment, play, and let go of the outcome and just kind of allow ourselves to be present and just let things happen without worrying about, oh my goodness, what if I make a mistake? What if I ruin my book? What if this spread doesn't come out right? There's a lot of fear that goes with art making for a lot of people. I mean, I really don't, I have to say that I don't really have this problem because I've been making art for so long that I know that bad paintings happen. And it really doesn't scare me to go in and just kind of play this way. And if I have a bad painting or if I'm worried about my sketchbook or whatever, I know that all I have to do, now this is a gouache painting, I can go over this with gesso and or acrylic paint, and I could just paint another spread over it. I mean, that's not going to stress me out. I most likely wouldn't. I most likely would leave what was here, and it wouldn't even bother me one bit if I didn't really like it. I would just kind of flip on by. But the thing that we need to remember about these sketchbooks is that no one ever has to see them. And most likely there'll be something I like about the painting. But most importantly is that I'm enjoying the process of making, and I'm enjoying the process of making art. And after a long illness, I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on myself to make a beautiful finished painting. I'm just having a really good time getting back in. And in fact, what I did here was I drew and painted for a very short while, and I was just so tired that I had to go. I just turned everything off and I went back into the house and I finished this on day 2 because I was just way too tired to continue. And so kind of knowing that about yourself and knowing when you're too tired or when your session needs to end can save yourself a lot of frustration. I know, like, if I'm really tired or really exhausted or starting to get a headache, I'm not going to try to finish my work because I'm going to get to a point where I hit a wall and I'm just not going to be able to finish. And part of that is because I've had a chronic illness for a very long time. Now, I don't dwell on that. I just kind of listen to my body, and I kind of just work around what I have to work around. So, that's important to know. I work every day. I work on my art every day. I'm drawing and sketching and painting pretty much every day, and I usually paint for at least 4 or 5 hours every day. And the rest of the time I spend doing the business of art. I have, a second business, and I put a lot of time into that. So, pretty much my whole day is spent working on some kind of artwork or the business of making art. And so I'm pretty focused on that. So even when I don't do a lot of planning, like in this particular painting, I didn't do a ton of planning. I went along and I do have a little bit of a color scheme and a plan in place here. So I'm doing some pink flowers, and I'm using mostly teal for the leaves and the yellow for the main plant forms, and some coral red orange for some of the vines. So I have a basic color scheme that I'm kind of following along with. And so then I'm going to go along and I'm doing that. The main focus is there's a large bird in the center that I'm going to be painting, and that's going to be kind of a dark bluish gray color, and I'm going to be painting in a full background. So I kind of have an idea of what I'm doing as far as all that goes. And so I have like a little bit of a plan. So even though I have the full range of colors sitting in front of me, I've kind of always have a little bit of a plan in my head about what I want to do with my colors and all that stuff ahead of time. So my painting will have like kind of a cohesive look, and I'm not getting too overboard with colors, and the colors will stay, they will all work together because I've kind of planned that out ahead of time. Though it's a loose plan, so I may step outside of it a little bit or add a few more extra colors in, but pretty much I like to plan the colors out ahead. I'm very much a colorist, and I love how colors interact, and so those are the kinds of things that I think about ahead of time. But I have a very loose plan, especially when I'm just kind of having a fun day. Like I feel like this is kind of just a fun painting because I'm trying to get back into painting after being away from my practice for a few days, and I'm just trying to have an enjoyable painting session today. Just a very loose, not thinking about it too much. I don't have a reference in front of me at all here. I am just playing. I like to call these the pretend flowers because, I'm not looking at anything in particular. I'm just making, pretend flowers, which are just like things that we can recognize as flowers, but they're not real flowers. They're just pretend leaves and pretend flowers, and just colors I like, and things that are kind of, you can kind of tell I'm using complementary colors because I'm using the greens and the reds and the putting them kind of next to each other, so they're kind of very dynamic next to each other, and it's giving a little pop of color. But then I'll put in some neutral tones as I go farther along into the painting, which will quiet things down a bit, but you'll still have that complementary pop going on. So I have the teal and the red and the pink and the kind of lemon yellow green kind of color. So those are like, it's almost like a double complementary color palette that we have going on. You'll see how it evolves as it progresses. And once I have most of the foliage painted in, I get into just painting the bird. And again, I don't put any more weight on painting these main elements than I do on just painting the flowers. I kind of do it in that same kind of really loose way, just getting the main elements in. I'm doing it very wet and washy. And then I kind of go back and add some details. Okay, so I want to be able to indicate texture and feathers, and so I make this very washy. I create, when I'm painting in watercolor or gouache, I like to make a puddle in the palette. So I think that that's the thing I stress the most when I'm trying to teach watercolor or gouache, is that you're not actually painting with what comes out of the tube or what's in the pan when it's dry. You're creating the paint is actually like a puddle of what you're making with water. And so you can intensify the color by using more pigment, making it a little more intense or less intense by adding more pigment, or creating more pigment by stirring it up a little bit more and grabbing more pigment into your puddle. But you're not actually using that thick, heavy paint that comes out of the tube, or the very thick amounts of paint that you scrape out of the pan. You're creating a puddle, and you differ the intensity of it by how much pigment you're adding into your puddle. And the puddle is the paint and not what's actually in the pan itself. And so sometimes people will take up watercolor or gouache, and then they're trying to use it like acrylic paint, or they're squishing it out, and then they're trying to paint from the actual stuff that comes out of the tube. And that's just not what we do with it. We make a little puddle, and you're working with what comes out of the puddle. And so then I've decided that I would like a very dark background. And so what I did was I created a neutral gray using the gray that comes with this set. But I also mixed in some of the dirty colors that I had on my palette, which is just a white plate. So what I did was I mixed in some of the pinkish hues and some of the blue hues into that neutral palette. So I had cool and warm hues that I mixed into the neutral gray in equal amounts, and then I just kind of mixed those in. But you can see the difference when it goes near the bird as to how much more of a neutral color that is. And I kept this very wet and loose all around. And I did try to make sure that the paint was dry in the areas before I added it. And you can see me dabbing if I felt like, that was a little bit too wet or whatever. But again, I'm not stressing out. I'm not freaking out or stressing out. I'm just getting in there and adding it. And I could have left this page white, and it would have had a totally different look. The other trick that I have is that sometimes if something's really wet, I will leave a little bit of a white line around. So what I did around the bird's wing was I think I just wanted to intensify the edge. So I just did that, and now I'll just leave that area alone till it dries, and I'll just fill in some of the other background areas first, and that's what I do. And then once that area is dry enough, I'll go in and put the background around that. The other thing I wanted to talk about with this particular painting was that I drew this with a blue Stabilo pencil. And Stabilo pencil is a water-soluble pencil. And they come in regular graphite pencils and they're water-soluble, but they also come in colored pencils. So I had a blue Stabilo pencil. I have the whole set of colored pencils of Stabilo, and Stabilo are wonderful because they mark on every surface. So they go over acrylic paint really well, which I love, and they're great for mixed media effects. And so I drew this in the Stabilo pencil. Now, they're not, they are activated by water, but they're not like, they don't run like crazy. So like, I painted this whole thing and they didn't run like crazy or anything. So then I went back into some of the plant with Stabilo, and if I really wanted to activate it, I could have dipped it into water or made it more of a watercolor effect if I really wanted to. I did come in and add a little bit more Stabilo, and I did dip it a little bit, but I mean, they're not super runny is what I guess I'm trying to get at, and they are really fun to add into your paintings. I have a whole bunch of different kinds of watercolor pencils. Now, after I did this whole background in the gray gouache, I decided I wanted some texture on the background, and so what I'm doing here is I'm doing some mark making with a Caran d'Ache Super Soft pencil. Now the Super Soft is also a water soluble pencil, but I'm not activating it. I'm just doing some mark making in the background, and it's just adding some texture, and it's just something I like to do sometimes because I feel like it adds a lot of texture, and it gives a certain quality to your piece. And so that's why I'm doing it. I really like the way it looks. It's almost exactly the same color as the paint. I have a really nice set of these. I love the Caran d'Ache Super Soft. They're really wonderful pencils. They can be activated with water, but they also do a really nice painterly effect if you use the oil painting medium that is the fat medium, so the oil medium for oil painting, and they do a wonderful job with that. So you can use them in a bunch of different ways for mixed media effects. They're really nice. They're very nice pencils, or you can just draw with them. You can color with them. They're just a really nice high quality color pencil. So I basically went over all of the background with the mark making, and I'm just putting in lots of lines. Anywhere I did the background, I went over with the pencil, and it just adds another layer to the piece, and it ties the whole background in together. It kind of solidifies that background a little bit too, and just adds a lot of texture to it, which I really like. So I'll be linking in the description box below to all the materials I used in this video. As you approach your own sketchbook work, I hope you can go in with the idea and attitude that you're there for growth, healing, exploration, and joy. It's a place where we can come that's judgment-free, and we can expand our creativity. Thanks for being here, and please come again soon.